and part 2 of the Cattaraugus 225 restoration. Got all of that nasty tape off of here, and as you can see, this leather has seen better days. Probably this leather probably could have been salvaged with a lot of leather conditioner and time, but the problem is we still have that bent tang. And because the tang is bent, the handle's got to come off anyway. So we're going to sacrifice this old leather and rebuild it. Now you're looking at this and you're probably thinking these are grooves. They are not. The Cattaraugus did not have the grooves like the K-bar. It was a smooth leather handle. Now, interestingly enough, the one thing they did have, you see this flat spot? Brand new out of the box. Cattaraugus, or the makers of it, would ceremoniously kind of take a chunk out of this leather right here on a grinding wheel or something, or with a file or a rasp, who knows. But the leather would be chunked up right here, and they said it was for improved grip. And I always thought that was kind of interesting that brand new they looked like they had been chewed on. But let me show you this 3-part butt plate, the pommel. One thing I've noticed is someone has been in here before. These 2 holes, there are 2 nails that went in here. Yes, nails. They would be driven in there. That would keep these 3 spacers lined up and anchor it into the leather to keep this pommel from coming apart. But as it is, it's not there, and that's good. Saves me a little work of pulling them out. So there's the top plate. This is the plate that locks everything in. And as you can see by looking at it here, that rotates. So there it is in the locked position. And you can see it's got a cam angle made into it so that it only rotates one way and locks onto the tang. See that? And this one is just your compression washer that kept the handle in place. And here you have the end of the leather handle. Actually, that's one more spacer, I believe. Let's see if we can get that off. Yeah, that's a piece of rubber. So there's your rubber spacer. We'll go ahead and add that. And these here, is that top one a spacer? That looks like leather to me. We're gonna hang on to it though, just because it makes a nice transition there. The rest of these are for sure leather. These are probably more spacers up here at the guard. After taking these leather washers off, I'm trying to count them. Some of them are really stuck together. They've been stuck together since 1941, or thereabouts. But best guess, I think that I have, I call it 32-ish leather discs here, not counting the rubber spacer. So, no big deal. I've made a lot of stacked leather handles before, so this is not going to be hard. It's just time consuming. I'm not going to cut out pretty little circles like this. I'll just have to cut out for the tang. Once I put them on, I'll shape the handle when it's on the knife. And speaking of our illustrious bent tang, there she is in all of her glory, her current glory. So we're going to put some heat on that and stretch her out. All right, with the tang straight, we can set about turning this puppy back into a knife. Now, I had mentioned before, I've done a lot of stacked handles before, and I normally start with, just a giant side of leather, and I cut out a whole bunch of little squares and, cut out some slots for the tang and put it all together. And then I made a discovery that I thought was going to save me a whole bunch of time, and that's these right here. They are little leather discs that have been pre-cut for the tang, thanks to the good folks over at USA Knife Maker. I highly recommend them. Great people. However, the way it always works, it was not made for a pry bar sized tang. And the good news is I don't have to cut out, 35 washers out of leather. So that part of it's done. That's a gigantic time savings. But what I am going to have to do is open up these tang slots so that they will be big enough to go into the tang. Let me see if I can kind of capture. It's one of those close but no cigar things. They need to be about twice as wide as they are. So I'm just going to take an oval punch and knock the centers of these out. All right, one of the great side effects, I should say side effects, but unintended consequences of being a knife maker is you make mistakes when you're making sheaths, and you always end up with a lot of scrap leather laying around from patterns that didn't work, or maybe just the cutoffs of leather. So I'm going to use this chunk of steel as my anvil, and then I put some scrap leather on there. I'm going to take an oval punch. I don't know if you can see that or not. And I am going to turn this hole into this hole. Let's do one in the middle to clean that up. And after punching that out with our oval punch a couple of times, that'll work. All right, one down and about 30,000 to go. There's the leather handle, all the washers stacked up. I know, it looks ugly, it looks stupid. And if you've never made a knife before, I'll just let you know all handles look ugly and stupid at this stage. There's no need to even worry about trying to get all of these perfect, because they're all a product of where the slot is cut in the center. And it doesn't matter, because all of this, I shouldn't say all of this, but the majority of this is going to be shaped away. So you'll notice this gap in between the guard and the first disc that you see. There it is. You see in that gap right there? See that leather washer? That is the washer that was up against the guard originally, since the knife was made. So what, about 75 years ago? And when I shaped this leather down, I'll take it down to match this first washer. And that way we'll know that this new handle follows the same contour as the original did. I don't have to guess on, where that handle should taper down in relation to the guard, because I've got the disc there that gives me my final dimension. And likewise, on the pommel end of it, the same thing. This is that rubber washer that was there that kind of gives it the taper. So I'll bring this handle down to the base of this washer. That'll be the end of the curve, and then the handle will look, the butt will look like it swells up out of there. So it's nice that you have these references from the original knife that tell you how far to go with your shaping, and that's going to help out a lot. If you recall, these nails were missing, and believe it or not, that's what they looked like brand new. It was just 2 nails. They had like a spiral flute to them to kind of dig into the leather. I didn't have those, so I used nails that fit. I turned down the heads to fit. I did not make them look beautiful because I want them to blend in with a 75-year-old knife. So I put those in, and you'll notice too, the 3 discs that make up the pommel, they're not perfectly aligned. Well, they're on there as good as they're ever going to be, but after 75 years and everything it's been through, it's not a beautiful factory fit. And this is one of those times where if this was a knife that I had gotten at the flea market and I just wanted to fix it up, I would turn these to make them all beautiful, make them look like one piece. But there's a lot of character in here. This knife has been used. Now, I couldn't tell you if somebody beat that up, playing with it after the war, or I couldn't tell you if that happened during the war. I don't know. And since I don't know, I'm not going to remove it. I'm going to leave it looking just like it does now, because that is original to the knife. If I was making it look brand new, then I would make this look brand new. I'd make the blade look brand new. But there's no point in making a beautiful brand new looking pommel that looks 75 years younger than the blade. That's not the point here. The point is to be true to the story of the knife. So this is more of a, what would you call it, a sensitive restoration than it is a rebuild. And I think it's gonna benefit from that. Just like the sheath. These sheaths were famous for this. They tore in the corners. That's pretty typical of the ones that you see. And I'm not gonna rebuild this sheath. I'm gonna put some leather conditioner on it, bring some life back to it, but there won't be any doubt that this is the sheath that came with the knife. And that's all for now.